Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 3 of this wonderful course that we call Decisions of Faith, Medical Ethics Seen Through the Eyes of the Torah. Tonight, we have a doozy, okay? We are going to be talking about a very, very sensitive, highly debated issue, and that is none other than the A word. Abortion. Now, abortion is to me a trigger word because the moment you say the word abortion, no matter where you are in any circumstances, it's going to bring up a lot of very passionate positions, right? It's almost like I say to my congregation, there's two things we never talk about in shul: politics and religion. Okay, those two things you can't talk in shul because you're never going to get a consensus, and it could only lead to dissension, right? Because you have the left, you have the right, you have the middle, you have the up, you have the down, and the same thing is true about abortion. It's a highly, very, very contested issue here in the United States of America. It's highly personal. But so tonight, I just want to lay down the groundwork of what we are going to discuss and what we're not going to discuss, okay? Number one is we're going to discuss simply the issue of abortion according to the learning and teachings of Jewish texts. That's what we're going to do. We're going to limit that. What is that going to exclude? To the most part, we'll stay away from public policy, okay? What should the United States of America do? Because as we've talked about in previous classes, the Weltanschauung, the way the Torah looks at things, and the way American culture and society looks at things are very, very different. They're miles apart. So, in this issue, we'll try to stick as much as we can to the issue of what do the texts say about this concept of what we call abortion. Because once we get into public policy, we'll never end. I mean, we'll be here forever, right. You know, about this. So let's start it. Let's steer clear of that issue. Right. Anything that's said tonight, whatever is going to be said tonight, and the text that we are going to study and the position that we're going to espouse, whatever is going to be, should not be taken as a personal judgment on any decisions that people have made. Because every case is unique, every case is complex, every case is personal. And whatever people in the Facebook world are friends, or here, whatever it is, you may have been involved, not you personally in your own, but a family member or whatever it is. So this class is not coming to condemn, to congratulate. It's not coming to do anything of that. We're trying to stay above the personal aspect of it. Meaning, we're going to try to talk it objectively, not subjectively. Because if it comes to something that if it's something personal that you or a family member or a friend need, that case is unique. And that case has to go to a rabbi and friends, whatever it is. So I just wanted to say that because there's going to be positions that are going to be highly contestable by many people out there in the face. No. Okay? There's going to be things. So just to let you know, this is not a condemnation. Everybody's loved, everybody is cared for, we're passionate to all different circumstances in this. Okay? So just let's get that clear, because this issue is what we call highly flammable. Highly flammable. So we like to keep it nice and cool, like in California. We want to be cool, nice and cool. Okay. So as long as we got down, the understanding of where we're going with this. Okay. So like we did in the last couple of classes, we are going to have a test case here. And from that test case, we're going to branch out and start discussing some of the issues. Okay? The test case here is very simple. There's a woman that got pregnant. Okay? The pregnancy is endangering her life. Okay? So it's a bad pregnancy. It's endangering her life. She does not want to end her pregnancy. Okay? For whatever reason, we don't know why. It doesn't give us much background about her. I'm not sure if it's religious. We're not sure if it's ethical, if it's moral. Whatever the circumstances, she's afraid. Whatever the circumstances are, she refuses to end the pregnancy. The doctors are telling her, listen, you know what? You've got to be very careful because this pregnancy is literally endangering you. Okay? That's the thing. So our question is going to be, would you consider it morally acceptable for this woman to risk her own life for the sake of saving her unborn child? This is the question that we have to ask ourselves, okay? Is it morally acceptable for this woman to do this? And if we have to counsel her, or we have to tell her, where are we going to steer her? Where are we going to steer her? Yeah. And if this is going to, of course, include the way Judaism looks at this concept called abortion, ending your pregnancy early. Okay. So, how are we going to start? Where we start from, right? What is the status in Judaism of a fetus? Okay. Okay. So let's go. We have what we call Talmudic embryology, right? Okay. We're gonna have Talmudic. We're gonna go to the Talmud and we're going to read a piece of the Talmud, and from there we're going to unpack it, and we're going to see exactly how the Talmud 2,000 years ago looked at the issue of a fetus, and then we'll try to see how we here in 21st century look at it as well. So please turn. It's student page 98, and it's called text number 1. Okay, here we go. This is taken from the Talmud, the last tractate. The tractate is Nida, talks all about women's issues, and one of them, of course, is about the pregnancy, and this is what they say. A fetus inside its mother womb resembles a folded writing tablet. Okay? Its 2 hands rest on its temples, its 2 elbows rest on its knees, its heels rest against its buttocks, and its head lies between its knees. Its mouth is closed, and its navel is open. It eats what its mother eats, drinks what its mother drinks, and produces no excrement. Okay? So that's the way they viewed a fetus. Now, you go online now, and you could literally see the development of a fetus. I mean, you on YouTube, you just put in, development of a fetus, and you can see every stage of development from the moment, of conception, how it grows. And it's, would I say it's exactly the way he describes it? But it's pretty, you're talking about 2,000 years ago without the help of any of the, medical instruments that we have today. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay. That's where it ends. The physical part of it. Okay? So the baby, and now, I know, and just here in the notes, just says here in the notes about the excrement, that it does say that there are some times where a baby does produce excrement. If it's under distress, it could produce something. But that's just a side point in case somebody says, oh, the Talmud was wrong. It does. Okay, it does sometimes when the baby's distressed. But he doesn't stop there.
But not while it's growing.
No.
The end,
right. Okay. So here he keeps going. Now, okay, the rabbi keeps going. A lamp burns above its head, okay, and it sees from one end of the world to the other. The fetus, okay, all right. The fetus is taught the entire Torah. However, as the fetus emerges into the world, an angel approaches and strikes its mouth, precisely where the upper lip, where you have this little indentation. That's where we were told as kids, an angel comes and flicks you with its finger and hits you. That's how you get the indentation above your lip, okay? And causes it to forget the entire Torah. So 5 minutes before you were born, you knew the entire Torah. 5 minutes later, you're an ignoramus. You forgot the entire Torah. We're not finished yet. The fetus does not emerge before it is made to take an oath, meaning that God or an angel comes down and makes the fetus make an oath. What is the content of the oath? Be righteous and not wicked. Yeah. Okay, so we have 2 parts to this. Number 1, we have the physical part, which tells us about the fetus itself, what it looks like in the womb of the mother. Part 2 is there's a spiritual aspect that comes to this, and that is that there's a lamp that burns above its head. There's an angel that teaches the fetus the entire Torah. Unfortunately, as we are about to leave this womb, the angel flicks us and we forget the entire Torah. And as we're leaving, the angel says, hey, before you leave, you got to take an oath. Promise me you'll be righteous and not be wicked. And that's how the Talmud ends. Okay, all right. So we have to unpack this. Okay, so the physical part of it, you can tell it is what it is. Okay, but we got to go to the spiritual parts, starting with lighting the lamp upon its head. What does that mean? If you look into the mother with any kind of a scope, you will not find a lamp burning on you will not find a fire in the mom's belly. It may be indigestion, but that's on the pizza that she ate the night before. Okay, that can happen. But the pickles, okay, that can happen. Okay, but a light burning inside her stomach we have not yet seen. And no matter how sophisticated instrument you're going to find, there's no lamp or light burning. So what is the Talmud trying to tell us? This is, of course, symbolic, telling us that Kineh Nishmas Adam, because the lamp of a God is the soul. So this fetus has a soul. It's telling us that the fetus has a soul, because a candle is likened to a soul in Kabbalistic teachings. So the Talmud wants to tell us that the fetus should not be just looked up as, as a nothing that's in a bag of cells or whatever it is, but you should know that this fetus has an independent soul that is there. Okay, so that's what the lamp that is burning above its head. Okay, fine. So that's one thing. Great. Then it says that fetus is taught the entire Torah. What does that mean? Why is it important to tell us that? Because it wants to tell us that Hashem works very, very hard on trying to give the child and the baby, yes, that too, the child and the baby, as much as they can, preparation and education, that when they come out into the world, they should be born already with proper training tools. Meaning that the Torah should not be distant from us. Meaning that as we're studying Torah as a young child, it should seem like it's something that we have already once experienced before, like a memory. So a memory. Because in education, you will always find that there is a huge disagreement of how we learn as a child. Whether we have knowledge, but it's just we're remembering things, or we're kind of like a clear tablet, where it's something you could write upon. Obviously, the Talmud is taken that we are born already with memories. Something that was going on in the mother's womb, we forgot it, but all of a sudden, when the teacher says, Kametz Aleph A, Kametz Beis Ba, you're in Cheder and it starts teaching you all the letters and the vowels, it doesn't seem that he's teaching you something from a distance, but it's something that is very close. So the Talmud wants you to believe that the fetus inside is being educated. So because a lot of people think, when does education start? 6, 7 years old. No. The Talmud wants to tell you, when education starts? Inside the womb. Now, this is not so distant from present day thinking. A lot of people, we believe that, there's a lot that you can influence the fetus, so they play music to the fetus, this to the fetus, like whatever you want, however you feel you want the fetus to go in life. So, some people want the fetus to get a great appreciation of classical music. So they'll play, Beethoven and Mozart to the fetus. Like it's going to be, other people, like myself, like to put, football games on. Maybe the fetus will grow up to be a professional football player. Whatever turns you on in your family, that's important. But that's what the Talmud is trying to tell us, that the Talmud teaches the entire Torah, so that again. And this is all leading to one point. It's all leading to one point, which we will get to in a minute. Now, why do you have to forget? If it's so important for the fetus to know the entire Torah, if, God is training us, so we're going to go out into the world, and the world is very challenging, and, we need all of the possible tools that we can get. So why forget the entire Torah? Because it wants you to do it on your own exertion, right? You know what? There's a famous statement in the Talmud, a person would rather have one measure of his own hard work than 9 measures that someone gave to him. And I prove it simply in a very easy way. Just think about when you were a kid. So I'll give you my own experience. My own experience is that when you're like a little adult, you're a little kid, a little older, bicycle. You want a bicycle, okay? So there's 2 ways you can get a bike. One way is you can go to your dad and you say to your dad, Dad, everybody has a bike. Can I get a bike? So it depends what kind of a dad you have. So one dad says, sure, I don't want to bother. Here's the $100. Go buy yourself a bicycle. You get the bike. Fine. You get the bike. You're riding the bike. All of a sudden, your friend says, can I ride the bike? Oh, you want to be a nice guy. You don't want to really, you let him ride the bike. And you know what happens when you lend things out to other people? They crash the bike. Okay? What do you do now? He gets a tire. He gets a flat tire. What do? You take the bike and the flat tire and you put it in the garage. Scenario 2. Your father says, you want a bike? How much is it? $100. He said, no, listen. Very good. If you do this, listen. You go out and mow a few lawns. You know, people need help. You go to buy Mrs. Kramer's grocery stores at the local, Steinberg's grocery store, which we had in Montreal. You go deliver a few newspapers. Before you know it, in a couple of months, guess how much you're going to have? $100. And you do that. You go out there, you mow a lawn, you mow 2 lawns, you deliver the papers, you bring Mrs. Kramer's deliveries, you do this, and you have $100. Oh, you're so proud. You go out there with the $100, you buy yourself a bike. Your friend asks you to borrow the bike. He crashes it. What do you do with the bike? You don't put it in the garage. Oh, no way. Either you charge him for repairs or you're going to repair that bike. Why? Because that bike has within it your blood, sweat, and tears. Okay? Your blood, sweat, and tears. I noticed some experience. I once worked before camp I don't want to say like a dog because it's not nice. I worked so hard in delivering newspapers in Montreal. I mean, hundreds of newspapers. I bought myself a gift for camp. A friend borrowed it and lost it. Oh, it just killed me. It killed me not so much because it was worth maybe $20, but the effort that went into it. So Adam writes a Makav Shalom Metisha Kabbalah Saver is real. A person would rather have 9 measures of his own hard work because he gets the appreciation of what he did with his own hands than if a guy gave him 9, And then we see, if your father gives you something, if you get a gift, you use it, you're very thankful, but it's secondary. But if you worked at it, you sweated for it. So therefore Hashem says to the fetus, you know what? You're going to learn the Torah, but just before you leave, I'm going to give you a bigger present. I'm going to make you forget it because I want to see how hard and diligently you are going to work to get it back. Okay? So that's why you have to achieve Torah scholarship on your own. No one's going to help you. That's the way it is. Now, Hashem may help you by giving you a good brain. Hashem may help you by giving you good teachers. But the best gift Hashem could give you, if you want to study Torah, is a good tuchus. And that's called a gluteus maximus. If you have if you have a good tuchus, pardon the expression, you will be a good scholar. I'm telling you. Because I've had friends who were great, brilliant geniuses that had no patience. That I had a teacher that could prepare a tremendous, deep Talmud class. In 20 minutes, he would come, pick out 3 books. He never achieved the greatness that he could have agreed because he had such a brilliant mind. Then there were people that sat. That I had a colleague that sat for 15 years in yeshiva in Montreal. That chair had his indentation, they had its mold of his tuchus. They actually framed it because he became with the chief rabbi of one of the big cities in Israel. He was not the brightest guy. He was not the brightest guy. But he had the attitude and pushed along and pushed along and pushed along. And this just tells us that exertion and dedication and persistence is going to win even over geniuses. Now, when you have both, if you have the blessing of patience and a good mind, then of course, all bets are off. You get the Rambam, in something like that. But he writes something very interesting, Rabbi Soloveitchik. If I may just read it to you, I don't know if you have it. It's in page 96 maybe of your book. It's why is it important to teach the fetus material it cannot possibly carry over into life? Why teach what will soon be forgotten? So he writes, I'm going to read this quickly. Rab Simla is apparently saying that every Jew comes into the world with a natural responsiveness to Torah teaching. Every Jew begins with a share in the Torah that was vested in him before his birth. And though he is made to forget it, it is preserved in the deep recesses of his soul, waiting to be awakened to study and a favorable environment. When a Jew studies Torah, he finds it's native to his spiritual personality and he responds to it readily. It is an act of recollecting, recapturing, bringing to the surface what was once learned and forgotten. The Torah did not impose upon Jews some extraneous matter foreign to their nature. Rather, Torah study and practice awakened in Jewish memory and we recall what was inherent in the Jewish soul. So I think that really hammers home the point of why Hashem does it. Teaches and makes you forget it. Okay? Now here comes the oath. Why the oath? Why the oath? Because Hashem knows that you are now going into a situation that is extremely hazardous. Why? A soul comes down here on earth and invests itself in a body, and the body is given two drives. The godly drive that we're talking about now, the soul, the godly soul that wants you to do all good things, and equal partner, what we call the Yetzer Hara. We call the animalistic soul. And these two souls battle constantly for the dominion of the individual. Every day there's a battle to do good, to do good, to do good. And the animalistic soul says, be selfish, be selfish, be selfish. And you have these two drives. So here comes the oath. The oath is like in order to give us another kind of a strength, to give us an impetus that if, God forbid, we are not strong enough, we are not courageous enough to do battle with the evil inclination, the oath will come to save us. We will remember that once upon a time, what did we say before we left the warm confines of our mother's bodies? We will do good and we will be righteous. So that's why, now, does it always work in life? No. Because sometimes the Yetzer Hara, God forbid, overpowers us. And these are the challenges in life. The other reason was given because the word Shavua sounds like Saiveya, has the same letters as Saiveya. And Saiveya means to satiate, meaning that you are given all the necessary tools to live righteously. Every human being is given the tools to live a righteous life. No one can come and say, hey, you know what, look at me, poor me, if only I was born in this era, if only I was born to these parents, if only I was born now or then, if only I was born smarter, richer, doesn't matter. Everybody is given the tools. Your job is to take those tools and to execute them and to implement them into your daily living. Okay? What's the purpose here? What's the purpose of telling us this? This is all leading into one line, to one thought, that the fetus is not a lump of flesh and a cluster of cells. Because when people think, man, just abort it, what do we care? No. The Torah is telling you that there's life to this fetus. It comprises both a body and soul. Okay. So from this here, we're starting to see already an attitude of what Judaism is starting to form around this concept that we call a fetus, that it has some life to it. It has life to it. Now, we're going to see where this takes us. But therefore, according to this Talmud and what we've read and all the explanations, aborting a fetus is no simple matter. Meaning that this idea of right to choose does not come to play. Does not come to play in Judaism. No, there's not a thing. You have something that is created. God has put a lot of effort into this. Thinking about it, who he should give the blessing to, how he should give the blessing to. And he gave the blessing to you because there are many people that would like to have children that unfortunately cannot. He chose that he is going to grant you the blessing of life, and he's put life into you. And that's the way it is. But I know everyone's going to jump right now and is going to say, but doesn't Judaism. Wait, we haven't finished the class yet. We haven't finished yet. We're just lining up the arguments here. So on the side of the Talmud is telling you that you should know that the fetus has life. It's just not a lump of flesh. Okay? Where you could easily just do this. Okay? So if that's the case, then the argument should be that abortion should never be allowed. I mean, if the way you're arguing, Rabbi Perlmutter, for the past half an hour, that then you just explained the Talmud, that there's a body, there's a soul, there's everything there. Okay, so abortion should not be allowed. I mean, just like you can't murder someone that's walking down the street who you don't like. Yeah, there's a lot of people we don't like. Are we allowed to murder them? No, you can't just. It's the same thing is true about a fetus. Why not? After you've explained this, that it has life to it. Wait. Then that's why you have to be a Torah scholar. Because a Torah scholar, I've explained a few times in the classes, how do you become a Talmud scholar? A guy once came to the rabbi and asked him, this is not the Shammai and Hillel story. Please, Rabbi, explain to me, can I learn the entire Talmud in one foot? The rabbi said, yes, I can do that. But before you do, I have to ask you a question. Okay? There are two thieves that come down a chimney. One comes with a clean face and the other one comes out with a dirty face. Who washes his face? So the guy says, of course, the guy with the dirty face. He says, wrong. You see? Because the guy with the dirty face looks at the guy with the clean face and thinks, what? I have a clean face. The guy with the clean face looks at the guy with the dirty face and thinks, I have a dirty face. So who's going to wash his face? The guy with the clean face. Am I right? The guy says, yes. He says, you see, you still don't understand. The question is, how can two people come down the same chimney, one with a clean face and one with a dirty face? You'll never be a Talmud scholar. Because to be a Talmud scholar, you got to take apart every single aspect of it. So when I just said something to you, and I brought a proof from, hey, you know what, look at this piece of Talmud, let's revisit some of it. And then we'll see that we can make an argument on the other end of it and say that, yes, even though that you may be right that the fetus is not a cluster of cells, but it's not a full human being either, and I'll prove it to you. How? The first thing it says, what does it say about the soul? How is the soul recognized in the fetus's existence? It says because there's a fire, a lamp burning above its head. Why above its head? Why doesn't the Talmud just say that there's a soul inside the fetus? Why does it have to specialize and say that there's a soul above its head? Indicates that it is not integrated with the body, right? The soul remains above its head, meaning a human being that we're walking around. Where's our souls? It's not on top of our heads. Our souls are inside of us, right? In our blood, in our heart, in our minds, all over it says. Not the fetus. The fetus was specifically said in the Talmud that it shines above its head. This indicates that it is not integrated with the body. They remain two distinct entities. The body is the body of the fetus, and the soul is the soul of the fetus. Okay? Number two is, when it talks about the angel, it doesn't say the fetus is not learning, meaning the angel is teaching the fetus. It doesn't say that the fetus is responding, it's learning. No. By osmosis, the child is receiving this information. Okay, it's receiving this information. It's not learning. What learning is what we're doing now. I say something to you, you may disagree with me, and raise your hand and say, Rabbi, ask a question. We go back and forth. That's the whole way of learning. The child is not doing that. The baby, the fetus, whatever you want to call it, unborn child, you have to be even careful of what you call it. Because some people, if you call it a baby, they get nervous. For some people call it a fetus, they get nervous. You call it an unborn child, they get nervous. So whatever I say, I mean the kid in the belly. Okay? That's what I mean, the kid in the cave. Okay? It's gay. Why? Why am I saying all of this? Because this shows something else about the fetus. On one hand, we said that the fetus has a soul, and it does this, and it does that. There's no independence. The fetus has zero independence. It doesn't really learn Torah. It's given information about the Torah, but it doesn't learn Torah. Number two, we said everything about what it receives, it only receives from the mother. It has absolutely no independence. And when there is no independence, this tells us that it is not a human being. Because one of the basic characteristics of a human being is total independence. We breathe on our own, we walk on our own, we eat on our own, we study on our own, we go on our own, we sin on our own. We do everything on our own. No one is going to be forcing us. And this fetus right now has none of that. None of that independence. Doesn't think for itself, can't vote yet. Who knows, in the future they may give it voting rights, it depends. But right now it doesn't have any voting rights. So none of this happens to the fetus. So here on the flip side of it, you have where the fetus has no independence. And that tells us something very important, that the fetus does not have full human status. Does not have human. So now we are like everything else in the Talmud at a quandary. Okay? Because now we presented two positions. On one position, you can say, well, the fetus has a soul and the fetus is learning and it retains information. So therefore, you cannot touch it. It's living. On the other hand, you say the fetus is not independent. It's nothing. It's nothing. The fetus can eat on its own. It doesn't have its own. It has no independence and it doesn't have no soul. The soul only rests above its head. It's not really learning. It's just retaining. So the fetus, under certain conditions, we should be able to abort it. We should be able to. So like everything else in these past 3 weeks, there's now what we call tension. Now we have to figure out how we deal with this tension. And I'm not so good at having things under pressure. I like to be, peaceful and quiet and nice, but we have questions. So let's go now. Okay. Let's try to unpack this. Okay. So this, what I wanted to do is just set the standards for an argument that's going to come later. So we all know, as I just want to reiterate, that aborting a fetus is not a simple matter. That's in Judaism for sure. But let's talk about now the fetus's status in Jewish law. Okay. So now that we know these arguments, what is going to be the status in Jewish law? Okay. So let's go, please, if you don't mind. Let's go to page number 100 in your books, which is text number 2. Okay. Text number 2. This is two verses from the book of Exodus, and it talks about, damages. The book of Exodus has many, many rules and regulations, and has rules again from holidays to all different kinds of rules. This is what we call, these are damages rules. You'll find them a lot in the Talmud, and this is what the Torah says. Now we're going to read this very slowly so we can capture the picture. If men are embroiled in an altercation, okay, means they're fighting, not kvetching, meaning they're a physical altercation, like in a hockey game. Now you see, it agrees with me. And a blow lands on a pregnant woman. That means, okay, so two guys are fighting. Picture this: they're outside on the street. A pregnant woman walks by, for whatever reason she's walking by, and a man then punches the pregnant woman, and the fetuses emerge. I mean, they come out, right? And there is no tragedy. Now we don't know yet what this means, and there's no tragedy. The perpetrator must certainly be punished. Okay? What? Through providing restitution in according with the judge's order. Okay, we're still quite hazy over here. If, however, there is a tragedy, you must provide a life for a life. Okay. So here is like many of the mitzvahs, it's very mysterious. It's mysterious. What exactly does it mean? Like I give you for example, when it says her fetuses emerge and there is no tragedy, okay? Like it said in the middle of the verse, right? Her fetuses, plural, like both, we're talking about twins. Here, her fetuses emerge and there is no tragedy. What does that mean? There could be one of two meanings. Does it mean the fetuses and the mother survive? Meaning that both the fetuses and the mother both are survived. There is no tragedy. Or does it mean the mother survives, but the fetuses die? Okay? Meaning that the no tragedy means the mother lived, but the fetuses died. That's one question we have to establish. Number two, the perpetrator must certainly be punished through providing restitution. What is the basis of this restitution? What did he do? Provoking a premature but healthy birth, meaning that he punched her in the stomach. It's like, it's like labor. He put her into labor, but the babies were born early, but they're living. But what he has to pay for is he put her through a premature birth. Or B, he has to pay causing the death of the fetuses. We don't know. It doesn't tell us what it is. He has to pay restitution, but we don't know for what. Are the babies alive or are the babies dead? And he has to pay for the babies. What is the meaning of the phrase, is there a tragedy, you must provide a life for a life? Does this mean if the fetuses die, the assailant receives a death penalty? Means if he kills the twins in the stomach, they die, he receives a death penalty. Or if the mother dies, the assailant receives a death penalty. Again, it doesn't tell us exactly what it is. So we hear, like everything else in the Torah, it goes to the Talmud, and the Talmud starts to discussing this, and over and over and over again, it's back and forth, and this is the resolution. What it means is like this: her fetuses emerge, and there is no tragedy. Means the mother survives, but the fetuses died.
Well, how do you know that?
Because that's how the Talmud learns this out. The Talmud learns this out because you'll see in a second. Her fetuses came out, but the mother did not die. No tragedy goes on the mother, not on the children. It doesn't go. So if you read the pasuk, two men are fighting, V'nafel ish hara, one punches the pregnant woman. V'yatsa yiladel, her children come out. V'lo yi'asayin, there is no tragedy to the mother, meaning the mother did not die. The asayin would be a tragedy to the mother, but the children died. Why? So what do you do? Anish yonish, he certainly has to be punished through paying restitution, v'nosan b'flilin, as much as the judges will place upon him. Meaning that in this case, the mother lived, the children died. He does not get the death penalty for killing the children, but he does get a monetary punishment. He gets a monetary punishment for killing the fetuses. But if the mother dies, meaning, but if, however, there is a tragedy, and that's how they learn. That's how they learn on the tragedy goes to the mother, because what we call this a gzeira shava. It uses the same words in both psukim. So if there is a tragedy, you provide a life for a life. Now this is a little contentious, because he did not intend to kill the woman. So even if he killed the woman, there's a disagreement in the Talmud whether he gets the death penalty, because the death penalty is only administered if you have intention to kill someone and you're warned beforehand. There has to be a warning that if you killed somebody, but that's not pertinent to tonight's discussion. So whatever it is. But from here we see something interesting, that numero uno, that if the fetuses, God forbid, be killed, there's no death penalty for you. Means you're not going to be killed if you kill the fetuses. But what you have to do is you have to make restitution. Just like if you damaged any other property. Now, how do you make restitution on this? How in the world can you somehow put a number to what it's going to, how much you're going to pay for a fetus? So I was always, when you're a kid and you learn this Talmud or any other section about restitution for injuries, like, if you burn somebody or you poke someone's eyes out. So how do you adjudicate? So the Talmud tells you how you adjudicate it. In those days, people's lives had value when it came to labor. How would we know this? Because there was an institution in the time of the Bible called slavery, and people were sold as slaves. Now, if you took a young man and sold him on the block, how much would he be worth? Now, take away a guy with one arm. So let's say how much a healthy guy is worth $1,000 and a one-arm guy is worth $100. So how much is an arm worth? Now, it'll tell you. Now, I always was wondering, but today if you buy insurance, they'll tell you how much it's worth. If you lose an eye, they'll pay you X amount of money. If you lose a leg, they'll pay you X amount of money. This is what it is. Unless you happen to be a pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then you'll get millions of dollars, for it. But so the same thing was true about then and with women. If a woman was sold and she was not pregnant, she was simply this, she was worth $1,000. Now you have a woman that's pregnant with twins, which you're really buying how many people? 3. So she's worth 3 people. So you pay $3,000 for her. Okay. So you damaged her for $2,000, and you have to make restitution of $2,000. That's how they would adjudicate it back in Talmudic times. So what we find here, okay? So we find that numero uno, a fetus is not a full human being. Because why? Because if it was a full human being, as we discussed about previously, then if you killed them, what should the punishment be? Death. You're a murderer. You're a murderer. So here it would clearly seem from at least this part of the Talmud that the children, that the fetuses are not equal to human life. Not equal to human life. Meaning, that doesn't say they're not something, they are something, but when it comes to punishment, you can't say that they're equal to killing someone or you're murdering someone when you're walking down the street. Right. That they're not. Okay, so we've eliminated that part. So they're not complete, equal human life. Number one. Okay, so we would think, so now that we've said, remember, you have to put your Talmudic caps on here. Remember what we're talking about. We're talking about Talmud. Nothing is ever simple in the Talmud. Let's go to the second case. Let's go to text number 3. If on Sabbath, page 102. Sorry.
The twins that come out are aborted.
Yes.
Prematurely, of course, and so they don't survive.
Correct. Yes. They don't survive. If they survived, there's a different story. Then restitution would be different, because if they survived, then you're not paying the $2,000 for them. Okay, here comes another text, page 102. If on Sabbath a woman sitting on a birth stool dies, okay, God forbid, which was unfortunately common, right? Before she was able to deliver her child, they should fetch a knife and cut open her womb to extract the child. Do everything you can to save the baby. She's dead already, so there's no harm in cutting her up. She's dead. Try to save the baby. So it says on Shabbos, cut her up. So the Talmud asks, so what are you telling us? It's obvious. Of course you cut her up. There's no prohibition against cutting flesh on Shabbos. You're not doing anything to desecrate Shabbos. You're cutting her up. Well, what's the Isser? What's the prohibition? There's nothing. So this is what we would call a pshita. It's simple. It's not. What are you not telling us? No, the Talmud says no. Rabbah responds. Rabbah was one of the great authors of the Mishnah. The statement is necessary to permit the fetching of the knife by way of a public thoroughfare, which is prohibited on Shabbos. So you do everything you can to save the baby, to save the fetus. No matter what, you're going to go if the fetus needs hot water, you heat up the water. If the fetus needs food, whatever it is, you heat up the milk. If the fetus needs whatever it is, you need a knife. You run to get a knife. Everything, which tells us what about the fetus? Now we flipped it. Right? So if we just said before 2 minutes ago about the fetuses are not full human beings, so why should you be able to desecrate Shabbos for it if it's not a full human being? Comes this piece of Talmud to tell you, no. They are full enough to desecrate Shabbos. And the reasoning for this is you can have a million reasons why. This is why you sit for years studying Talmud, because now you have to come up with some kind of a justification. What is the justification? Why should you be able to desecrate Shabbos for saving the fetus if the fetus does not have a status of a human being? So there's
once it's born, it does.
Once it's born, once it's there and it's if the baby is born, then you do everything. But why should you be able to get it to be born? Let it just forget about it. It's not a human being. No. Because there is a concept that you are allowed to desecrate Shabbos in case of a life emergency. Right. God forbid someone needs medical care. You do everything you can. Why? Why should you be able to do that? So the rabbis debated what was the purpose of. So he says you break one Shabbos in order for him to be able to fulfill many more Shabbosim. Imagine you saved a person, you desecrated one Shabbos. Now he'll be able to celebrate 50 more, 100 more, 1,000 more Shabbos. Same thing is true with the fetus. That's what most of the rabbis go upon. So if you save the baby by desecrating this one Shabbos, the baby is born and has a lifetime of Shabbos that it could keep. Which I loved that kind of a concept, because you know what? You're playing the long game. You see, look, desecrate one in order for it to be born, and it will keep a Shabbos for a lifetime. Go ahead, Sharon.
So is it a different status if the mother is alive compared to her dying?
No, same thing.
Because
if a mother,
they're not dependent, the baby is not of the mother.
If the mother is in danger, you do everything you possibly can to save her life. Now we're going to get to a circumstance where it's going to be unfortunate, but the mother's going to be under such duress because of the fetus that we're going to have to make a decision what we're going to do over there. But right now we've eliminated that problem by saying the mother is dead. She died. She's dead. So there's nothing you can do for her. So the fetus is independent of her. So we do everything we can to save the fetus. Okay. So again, we've had two sort of, I wouldn't say completely conflicting pieces of the Talmud, but one that tells us that the fetus doesn't have great human value, and the other side which says it does have great human value, and we still have to come to some kind of a conclusion. What do we do if someone comes to you and says, what should I do? So here we have definitely, we say, save the fetus. Oh, okay. All right. So now we have to figure out this question, and here's the key question that we're going to be thinking about. Remember, this is abortion only. Forget about America. This is abortion from the Torah's point of view. Okay, if the fetus is something, why are we allowed? No, 1 second. No. Okay, hold on. Okay, so fine. We have two positions right now, right? We have the position the fetus is a kid, and the position is here we can save it on Shabbos. But if someone kills the fetus, he doesn't get killed. So let's go to text number 5. Okay, text number 5.
4.
We did 4? No. I'm sorry. Text number 4. Sorry, this is it. Okay, text number 4. Text number 4 says like this. If a woman experiences now this is Sharon's case. If a woman experiences life-threatening difficulties during labor, okay, she's going. We see that she's dying. We cut the fetus in her womb and extract it limb by limb because her life takes precedence over the fetus's life. Okay, so here we go. 9th month. Here the woman is. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't put any restrictions on this. If the fetus is going to kill the mother, even if it's about to be born, right? Boom, you kill the fetus, kill it, whatever it is, and save the mother's life. Clearly, this is from the Mishnah. Yeah. And why is he telling us this? Why is the Torah telling us this? Because can you imagine the decision you have to make here? If you are the physician, you are the midwife, you are the father, you are whoever it is, the rabbi, you have to make a decision now to kill a fully formed fetus. I mean, this is not a week. She's pregnant a week or 2 weeks. This is a fully formed fetus that is killing her, and that's why the Mishnah says, because as emotionally wrenching as this may be, the mother's life takes precedence. The mother's life and even though she may be screaming, imagine it, she may be screaming, "Let me go, let the kid live." No, you have to save her life. So here, what is? Go ahead, Lenny.
I mean, in practicality, that's not the way it is. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I've been in a situation.
Yeah.
You have an exact situation. So you call, and in 5 minutes the labor room is set up, and the mother has a cesarean section. The baby comes out. It's not torn limb to limb.
Right.
And the mother may or may not be safe.
Right.
That's how it's done in 2020.
2020. Right. The Mishnah, of course, is trying to give us it's trying to steer us in a certain direction to tell you that if there is a case of where it's the mother or the child, it's the mother. That's what it's telling you. So now we have the contradiction, because 2 minutes ago we said, cut the mother up and save the kid. Now we're saying cut the kid up to save the mother. Go. Why? So now we're going to try. So now we're going to put 2 opinions of why we can do this. Okay. Why are we allowed to kill the fetus? Okay. So we are going to have Rashi's opinion. Okay. We're going to have Rashi's opinion. And Rashi's going to say like this. A midwife reaches into the womb with her hand to dismember the fetus and extract it limb by limb. Okay? Meaning that the mother's life is in danger. The midwife is there. She has a responsibility of going in there and doing what it has to do to the fetus. Why? For as long as a fetus has not emerged into the world, what is the next words? It is not a life. Rashi says it is not a life. It is therefore permitted to kill for the sake of saving the mother's life. So Rashi says clearly that the fetus, till it comes into the world, once it sticks its head into the world or whatever it is, it's a living being and you can do nothing to it. Once that happens, the mother is gone. It dies. I mean, that's the way it is. But as long as it's not, as long as it still has no independence, it's completely dependent on the mother, it's in the mother's womb, the mother's life takes precedent because, and he clearly states, Rashi, it is not a life. Now let's remember that, because that's going to come into play when we talk about certain cases, how we're going to see how some people are going to line up like behind Rashi. Now, if you say it's not a life, that would mean that in case of abortions, you would be much more lenient or strict? Lenient. Thank you. You'd be much more lenient. Why? Because it's not a life. It's not a life. So therefore, Rashi tells you that, you know what? here's an extreme case, yes, an extreme case, but what about not such extreme cases, which we will discuss in a little while? What would be the ruling according if Rashi was sitting over here? So here, Rashi gives us one rationale why the mother's life takes precedent over the fetus, even though we said before, oh, wonderful things about the fetus. It has a soul and it learns Torah and all of these things. I mean, imagine killing such a Torah scholar, in the womb and all of these things. And you cut the mother up if it dies, even on Shabbos, on Yom Kippur, whatever it is. But ultimately, it's not a kid. It's not a kid. That's what Rashi's opinion is. And that's why the mother's life takes precedent over the kid's life. But that's only one opinion. You think everybody agrees with Rashi? Most agree. Most what we call Rishonim, most commentaries and codifiers agree with Rashi. But the Rambam, who is no slouch himself, as I may say, if you know, has a little bit of a different opinion. He says like this. Text number 6, page 105. We are commanded to not take pity on the life of a rodef. Okay, what's a rodef? A murderous pursuer. If that is necessary to rescue the intended victim. Okay, so what's the case over here? The case is here, Mr. A, we're sitting in a bar, two guys get into an argument, and A says to B, I'm going to kill you, and pulls out a gun and tries to kill Mr. B. He is what we would call a rodef. He has murderous pursuer. He's a murderous pursuer. So Mr. B runs out of the bar. Mr. A starts chasing him out of the bar, which would then actually put him into the position of a pursuer. We should not take pity on the rodef's life. On the pursuers means B, we have to take out. Now, if we could take him out without killing him, is better, obviously. Shoot his legs, cut him down. But if ultimately we have to save A by killing B, you're okay, no problem. We should not take pity on B because B is a potential murderer. And we'd rather have the potential murderer killed than the innocent guy A killed.
Right.
Okay? So this is true in halacha. This is true in Jewish law. Meaning that if God forbid, again, we will hardly ever see it, but a rodef is someone who's coming to kill you, kill someone else. You see it. You have a right, whatever means necessary, bow and arrow, gun, lasso, whatever you have available to you, you have a right to do that and to take him out, even to the point of killing him. Because we'd rather the pursuer die. Now this comes into play not only into Bristol, but think about, someone who's going to come kill you, what does the Talmud says? We're going to sit back like this and take it? No, if someone comes to kill you, we have a right to stand up and protect our property. Now we're right to kill them. Torah is very clear. Okay, so now Rambam says this is a law that's not debated. But then he goes on to say like this. On this basis, our sages ruled that if a woman experiences life-threatening complications during labor, okay, like we talked about in the first case, it is permitted to abort the fetus in her womb with drugs or with an instrument. Okay? Like we said, he's not arguing against what the Talmud said, but he writes, and here is his rationale, unlike Rashi, which said that the fetus is not a life, he writes, for the fetus is considered a form of rodef against his mother, meaning that the fetus is trying to kill its mother. And since the fetus is trying to kill its mother, we have a responsibility as individuals that are outside to save her life, and that's why you have a right to kill the fetus or to abort the fetus to save the mother's life. And this is vastly different than what Rashi says. If you think about it, Rashi says the fetus has no life. Okay, Rambam says no. The fetus has a life. The fetus has a life. Now we have to adjudicate whose life we are now it takes precedent. So in this case, since the mother is a fully living human being, and etc., therefore we're going to put the status of rodef on the fetus. We're going to consider it a pursuer, a murderous pursuer, and we're going to kill the fetus. But that does not mean that the fetus is not a life. The fetus is a life. As a matter of fact, it is a life. But it's not, the mother's 100%, the fetus is 80%. So we'll take the 100% over the 80%. Okay. So now, if you came to the Rambam and asked him about the issue of abortion, what would the Rambam say to you? Absolutely not. Why? Unless the mother's life is in danger, why would I allow you to have an abortion? The fetus is a living thing. According to the Rambam, the fetus is a living thing. So therefore, if you wanted to have an abortion and you have a chance to go to Rashi or to Rambam, who would you go to? Rashi, right? Because the Rambam is going to be much more strict. He's limited. He's going to limit very, very much. The Bible is only in the case of where the mother's life is at stake. Now, here we have two different opinions of why the mother's life takes precedent. One is going to be because the status of the fetus is no life. The other side is going to be because the status, the fetus has life. It has life. It is a rodef. And in this particular case, we're adjudicating that the mother takes precedent. But this should not be extrapolated into another case where, okay, I don't want the kid, so let's just get rid of him. Now Rashi wouldn't say that either. Rashi would not say that either. Rashi would not give you, just if you walked into Rashi and said, I want to get rid of the kid because it's very inconvenient for us. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
No carte blanche.
No carte blanche. Except that, what Rashi may be in certain circumstances may be more lenient than the Rambam because of this underlying way that we look at this at the mother and the child. Okay. So we got that? And then I think it's pretty clear cut. The way the Rambam looks at something and the way Rashi and the other Rishonim, the other rabbis look at it. Because most of them line up behind Rashi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's more, I don't know, whatever the circumstance. So now we got to figure, let's take that into some practical differences in present day America. Okay? Let's go to some present day America questions. God forbid, you come to the doctor and the doctor tells you that the baby, you took some tests and the baby now has Tay-Sachs. Tay-Sachs. Okay? So Tay-Sachs is a disease which the child is going to die early. Okay? I mean, the way they describe it here is, characterized by weakness beginning about 6 months of age, progressive mental and motor deterioration, and it turns into blindness, paralysis, dementia, seizure, and death, usually by the age of 3. That's basically what Tay-Sachs is. Okay, so here you come, and you tell the doctor gives you this devastating news. By the way, let me just point something out. It's rare today, at least in our community, to have, because we have what's called Dor Yesharim. Before we have our children date, we go through this test. You give your blood, and they monitor, they test it for certain things, and they'll tell you if you're compatible. So the girl goes in, no names. So you go, you get a number. Okay, I go in there, I give a drop of my blood. I'm number 1770. Okay. Someone else goes in, Khani goes in, she gives a drop of blood. Her number is 1771.
This is before marriage.
This is before marriage. Before marriage, to know if you're compatible. They don't have it for temperament. They only have it for blood. If they had it for temperament, I'd be sitting here. But nonetheless, that's a different story. Maybe in the future, they'll come up with a temperamental test. But that's not, they don't have it. So then you call up and you say, my number is 1770. And the number of the girl is 1771, and they'll tell you compatible, meaning that they took the test. You don't have to worry. No Tay-Sachs. They took all the gene, whatever tests they are. So it's very rare now. But it used to be a Jewish. A lot of people got Tay-Sachs. So God forbid the doctor said to you, you know what? We tested the child. The child has Tay-Sachs. Now what do you do? What do you do?
Okay. Both.
Yeah. What? Both?
Both.
Both have to have it.
So if one doesn't, then you're safe.
You're safe. As long as you stay married to the same one.
You don't need to know that
one has,
and you
right?
don't know who it is.
Yeah. But in case if you would get divorced and marry someone else, you have to go through the testing again because you never know if you. Okay, fine. God forbid you should ever. Okay, fine. Okay. So now we have this. According to the Rambam, let's say, okay, you lived in the town of in Cairo in the time when the Rambam was the chief rabbi, or if you lived post the Rambam and his son was the rabbi, or you lived after his son and another Maimon, because they were Maimons all the way through till today. There's Maimon family, and you went into them and you said, well, listen, the doctor just came to me and he said to me, told us that the child is with Tay-Sex. What do you think they were going to say? Sorry. No, that's look. Hashem knows everything, and Hashem is the boss of the world, and Hashem gives whatever He gives to whoever He gives it to. You know what? That's the way it is. You have the child, live with the child. It's a blessing. Whatever the child is going to bring to you, fine. That would be their position, because it's not a rodev case. The mother's life is not in danger. It's not a rodev case. But if you came into Rashi and said to Rashi, you know what, this is going to cause anguish and despair and suffering and this and that, Rashi, based upon an individual basis, may be more lenient and say, yes, you may abort. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who was, as we mentioned before, we have had him before, he was a leading halachic authority in the past century. He was very much on the side of the Rambam. So he was strict. And if you read text 7, it says on page 107, abortion is forbidden as an act of murder. It's an act of murder. You kill a fetus, you're a murderer. The only distinction between abortion and the murder of an already born human is that one is not liable to receive the death penalty for killing a fetus. Like we had in the Talmud, if you killed the babies, the twins, you're not liable for the death penalty. But that's the only difference. It's the only difference. The only instant in which abortion can be permitted is when it is necessary to order to save the life of the fetus's mother. So he would be very black and white. If the mother's life is in danger, yes. If the mother's life is not in danger, no. I'm sorry. This applies even to the fetus that the doctor predicts will only be able to survive for a few years, such as children born with Tay-Sex disease. Even if the diagnostic tests that have recently been developed determine that a child will be born with this disease, it is forbidden to abort. Although this will cause great pain to the parents, nevertheless, since the mother's life is not endangered by the fetus, abortion cannot be permitted. We must acknowledge that God is directly in charge of all events, and we need to accept everything He does with love. So he takes a very hard stand, right? Rabbi Feinstein takes a very, very hard stand because he views the life of a fetus as living. And abortion, he writes clearly, is murder, except, okay, since the child is going to kill the mother and the child is a rodev, okay, in that circumstance, we're going to allow you to abort the child. But besides that, forget about it. Now, not all Orthodox rabbis agree with him. Not all Orthodox rabbis agree with him. And they have a lot of authority to stand upon because he's one voice. And even though we always look at the Rambam like the giant eagle in the room, and probably is the giant eagle in the room, when it comes to halacha. I mean, if you look what he produced, but we don't always rule like him. No, we don't always rule like the Rambam. There are certain circumstances that we disagree with the Rambam, even as great as he is. So others will say, "Oh, hold it, not so fast, not so fast." This is one opinion. Others will say that you can because we will take Rashi's opinion into consideration. Thank you. We'll take Rashi's opinion into consideration, and we will say no. So we had him last week. We talked about the Tzitz Eliezer Rabbi Waldenberg, who lived in Israel, and he was an expert in medical, ethics. And people asked him, and this is what he wrote. So if you go to text number 8, we'll see something else. You inquired about the permissibility of abortion in the case of Tay-Sex disease, which can be diagnosed during pregnancy. The consequences of this disease are extremely severe and untreatable. And you asked whether this constitutes sufficient grounds to permit an abortion. So that's just the question. This is what he says. After carefully considering all aspects of this issue, my conclusion is that this unique case where the consequences of continued pregnancy and bringing a child to term are so severe, it's possible to permit an abortion before the fetus reaches 7 months. He puts a limit on 7 months. Okay? 2 trimesters. I based this conclusion on the lengthy halachic analysis of the status of abortion that I published, which presents the conclusion abortion does not constitute an act of murder. After 7 months, abortion is a far weightier decision because at that stage the fetus typically attains a status of viability. So he wants to the kind of more lenient before, but he does not rule out. He does not rule out even after 7 months if it comes to the point of where. Who knows, boy, my nafesh, and it's such an extreme case, and it's such terrible consequences, and such severe and untreatable, you may be able to do an abortion after 7 months as well. I mean, we have the case with the fetus and the mother, even before the mother is born. So he takes before 7 months, he takes a much more liberal position, meaning that, you know what, you have Tay-Sachs, the child is not going to be born, I don't believe abortion is murder. Therefore, under circumstances, now he writes, if you look, it is possible to permit. He doesn't say, I'm permitting it. He says, it is possible to permit. He has to take everything into context. What's the family going to be like? What's going to be the ramifications? Can the family, can the mother, who's a strong woman, live with this? Can she not live with this? Today we know that psychological impact on the mothers, in the Talmud they didn't take this much into consideration. But today we understand that the mother's mental health is equally as important as her physical health. Yeah. So one way the fetus is going to kill the mother physically on the birthing stool. The other way, the baby is going to kill the mother if it's born. Okay, so what are you going to do? So in those kind of cases, each individual cases, the rabbi may permit an abortion. May permit an abortion, on that case. Go ahead, Sharon, did you want to?
Yeah, so it's a slippery slope because then what about Down's children? Then it's going to be mentally stressful. It could be even if this child could live a long life, but it's going to stress the parents. And it's these issues really come into focus nowadays where we hear people have given up their children and they've had these Down's children and then they've given them up for adoption, in the Jewish world.
Listen, you're right. And that's why no rabbi is going to write a tshuva, a response that covers every case. Even Rabbi Feinstein, even where he started with a blanket statement: abortion is forbidden as an act of murder. And I think he wrote that to drive home the point. I think there was a little politics involved in this as well. To drive home the point that even in the debate in the United States of America, where we want to be lenient, we want to care, you should just know from Judaism, abortion is murder. Now, that said, each case has to be adjudicated because we have leeways out. So you're right that, you have to be careful, and no rabbi worth his 2 cents or, and everything is going to give a blanket statement. No, I permit, if you're just not feeling well, or, you may abort the child. No rabbi is going to do that. Each case is going to be adjudicated. What is going to be the ramifications? What is the impact? All of these things. Now, with a Down syndrome child, I would find it very, very difficult to give a permissibility to abort, because Down syndrome children are lovable human beings. I mean, they're fantastic human beings. Right. You ask families with Down syndrome children, they love, they care, they feel, they can live lives. There are Down syndrome children that are independent and productive. So there would be no. The fact that 50 years ago we hid them, or 100 years ago we hid them in our house, today that's not the case.
Yeah, but that's one thing. Yeah, that's absolutely right, because you cannot tell to what degree the Downs gene will affect this person.
Exactly. No way.
Whereas Tay-Sachs is a lethal disease.
Yes. Yeah.
You have Tay-Sachs, that's one thing, but Downs.
No, Downs they would not give you. Downs, no. I mean, and I know that it was the days when we never wanted to admit anything wrong. Everything that was in the family was hidden. If you had something with your child, it was put into a home. But today we know that families with Down syndrome children will tell you that what this child brings into the family is incredible. Not that we wish it on anybody. No one wants to. I say, please, I want to have a Down child. No one wants that. But the love. These are kids with unconditional love. You know what I mean? We don't have that. Well, we don't have that. Your children don't have that. Everybody wants something from you. Dad, can I have a bike? If I don't have a bike, you know what? And children are incredible. We're talking about children and love. Your children could love and hate you in 30 seconds. Because you tell, Dad, I want a bike. No, I hate you. You want to go for ice cream? Yes, Dad, I love you. Okay? In 30 seconds, we went from hate to love to love to hate. These kids don't know this. These kids are pure love, pure joy. But each case, no matter what the circumstances are, and even though rabbis today probably would be more lenient today, I would say, when it comes to issues than rabbis in the past, because we take it much more of the general scope of things. Still, each case has to be adjudicated. To give a heter, to give a person a permissible decision on abortion, it takes a lot from the rabbi. I mean, because you're not dealing with my chicken swallowed a nail. Now, Rabbi, I'm not sure if the nail punctured the lung. Is it kosher, not kosher? You know, that decision, most rabbis will say, who cares? Not kosher, buy another chicken. How much is a chicken? But to abort a child, after we've seen what the Rambam says, and after we've seen what the Talmud says, now we see what the Torah says about it, it takes broad shoulders. And Rabbi Waldenberg, thank God there are people like that, and Rabbi Feinstein, to say, hey, you know what? Under certain circumstances, we may take it. We may do that. So, according to the Tzitz Eliezer, according to Rabbi Waldenberg, you know what? He would be much more lenient when it comes to Tay-Sachs, but he puts like kind of a wall when it comes to the 7th month. Once after the 7th month, that he's going to do. Then there's other halachic experts that tend to view a little more strict, and tend to follow the stricter view of the Rambam. But they may give a little bit of a leniency in the first 40 days. The first 40 days. If you just look at text number 9, this gets a little bit complicated, but let's see if we can just follow this. Okay, let me just give you the ruling over here. Generally in the Torah, there's a Kohen, and the Kohen subsisted on presents from the rest of the Jewish people. They didn't own any land, they didn't grow any fruit or grains, they were not farmers. So how did they exist? They existed on the gifts of the Jewish people. One of them was Truma. Truma was a tax. You had to take a certain percentage of your grain, of fruits, whatever you had, and you had to deliver it to a Kohen of your choice. Once you gave it to the Kohen, that Truma took on sanctity. It became special. No one can eat from that except the Kohen and his family. But that's it. No Jew can eat from it. No Levite can eat from it. No one can eat from it except the Kohen and his family. So what's a family? Who is considered part of the family? All unmarried children. His sons, obviously, because they're Kohanim, and his daughters who are not married. Wife. And of course, also there were indentured servants who belonged to him, not hired hands, but the people that worked in his house, they can eat from it. Now, what if a daughter then got married to a non-Kohen? The father says, thank you very much, you're out, you can't eat the truma, because you're married now to a non-Kohen. What if the husband passes away and there's no children? The Torah says, if she dies childless, she can come back to the father's house and she may eat the truma, because now she's back into the family. If she has a child, that's it. Once she has the child, she's now out of the father's house, she's an independent girl, and even if the husband dies, she cannot partake of the truma anymore. You got that? So now, daughters, unmarried daughters, yes. Married daughters, no. Married daughters, no children. Husband dies, yes. Child, okay. Now the Talmud goes into all of these cases. So let's hear what the case is. Okay, the case is like this. The rabbis had a tremendous amount of time. You understand that? Okay? Tremendous amount of time. They came up with the cases. Okay? If a daughter of a Kohen married a non-Kohen and he died on the wedding night, oh my God, how lucky is she? I mean, he died on the wedding night. She may immerse in the mikveh and eat truma that evening. Meaning, they had relations. Means, of course, that's why she has to go to the mikveh, because they had relations. He then dies. Okay? Whatever, wow. Okay? He dies. She may go and eat truma. Question is, why? Maybe she got pregnant. Maybe she got pregnant that night and she's carrying. And if she's carrying then the fetus excludes her from eating the truma because, no. So he said, why are we not concerned that she may be pregnant? So Rav Chisda said, she may eat truma until 40 days from her marriage. Because if she is not pregnant, there's no disqualifying factor. And if she is pregnant until 40 days have elapsed, the embryo is mere fluid. The embryo is nothing. Okay. I mean, what do you mean? Nothing means over here.
There has to be 40 days to be
viable. To be viable. Okay. All right. So 40 days now became an issue. So if now you would come to the rabbi and you'd say to the rabbi, my child has, like Tay-Sachs or whatever it is. I don't know how they would figure this out within 40 days, but if they figured out within 40 days, even Rambam, who takes a very hard line, he may buckle a little bit because 40 days, it's mere liquid. It's mere liquid. Okay, so you have here a number of different positions, right? Number of different positions. Position number one is Rav Moshe Feinstein, that only in the mother's life. The Rabbi Waldenberg, who says no, even if it's but till 7 months. And then many rabbis would be much more lenient, even if it's with 40 days. Even those that follow the thing. Now, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who we had before, was such that he ruled that one is allowed to abort an embryo that is diagnosed from Tay-Sachs before 40 days from conception. He was one of those 40-day, even though he may agree with the Rambam, but he was a 40-dayer that said, 40 days is nothing, and if God forbid something happens, you can abort. So, okay. So here I think we've kind of come to the conclusion like this. You have a number of different opinions about the embryo. The embryo is definitely not a cluster of cells. We've come to that conclusion according to everybody, and it's just not a bag where you come to it and just say, I want to get rid of it, I don't like it, I'm not feeling good, it's very inconvenient for us, we're traveling to Europe, Kishmir, you're having the kid. Abortion on demand is out in Judaism. Now, what if you have, God forbid, a life-threatening situation where it's going to kill the mother? Everybody agrees, right? We find across the board that the mother's life takes precedent over the baby. We say this because in one of the notes here it says the Catholic Church would not agree to this. The Catholic Church would say you got to let nature take its course. The mother lives, it lives. The mother doesn't live, it doesn't live. So so this is why I just point this out, because this is one of the dangers of going into the public arena. If you say we have a position that I would like Congress to establish, because we are so far afield from what everyone is saying. We have such a unique position in Judaism. On one hand, we say no, but then we're more lenient than the church, and we're more stricter than the atheists. So therefore, I say better stick away from from the public arena. You care about your community and make sure make sure that. So that we have. Okay, so we have 9th month. Mother's life is a danger, abort the child. 7 months with Tay-Sachs, Rabbi Waldenberg says you can have it. Rabbi Auerbach says no problem within 40 days for sure. Between 40 and 7 months he would adjudicate on an individual basis. After 7 months it becomes problematic. It becomes problematic. Okay, that's with a Tay-Sachs baby. Then if you have other diseases, then you have to talk to the doctors, talk to the rabbis and all this. But let's go back now to the woman that we talked about at the beginning. Here is a woman who has a child, who is pregnant with a fetus that is endangering her life. She doesn't want the abortion. She wants to carry it to term. Whatever the circumstances are. She holds like the Rambam, she wants to. What is our responsibility? What should we do? If the doctors say, hey, it's a clear and present danger. Okay. So like everything in Judaism, nothing is simple, right? Nothing is simple. So if the doctor says, we say like this doctor said this. If the doctors say that her life is in danger, but it's less than 50%, okay, less than 50% that it's gonna kill her, then you allow her probably to make the decision. You say, look, you should have the abortion, but you allow her to do this. If the doctors say that there is a clear and present danger, that the chances of survival of this mother is minimal, minimal, the fetus is going to kill you, then we, in such circumstances, we unequivocally, as rabbis, instruct her that she is halachically obligated to undergo an abortion. She has to undergo this abortion, meaning that if she thinks to herself that she's going to be a tzaddikus, that she's going to be this heroine and going to go to term and somehow Hashem is going to kill, it's like walking on the freeway and asking Hashem, I'm going to cross the 405 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and Hashem will take care of it, make sure the truck doesn't hit me. That's the same way. Ein somchen ala nes. You can't rely. So if the doctors say that there's minimal chance, which is minimal doesn't mean 2% chance, so less than 50% chance would say to the lady, look, under these circumstances, the doctors are telling you that you are going to probably, more than likely, minimal chance of survival. Halachically, you have to go through that abortion. That's the realm. Now, in America, what would happen? Nothing. You can't force it to have. Can you force anybody to have an abortion here in America? No, you can't force anybody. Even if you have 25 rabbis, you have Rabbi Moshe Feinstein together with Rabbi Auerbach, together with Rabbi Yindstein, with the Rambam would come, and Rashi would come, and the whole Moshe Rabbeinu would come. Bottom line is, you can't force her. At the end of the day, you could tell her that you don't want to do this because it's a sin. It's a sin to have the child. Ultimately, it's her choice, and hopefully, she'll make the right choice. What we find from all of this is one thing. It's very complex. This is a very complex issue. And that's Janet. Janet says, no, that was the music I was calling for. I like that music because it's a very complex issue. It has to be extremely personal, and every case is unique. No two cases are the same. But what's interesting is how the Torah lines up, how you have to view each individual case, how you leave nothing to chance. I mean, like we saw when we're discussing, like, the portion of the Torah, and how we have to, each word, each sentence, each phrase is important to analyze and to work over. And that's what the greatness of Judaism is. It took nothing for granted. Nothing. And it still doesn't take anything for granted. This should never happen to anybody. I wish no one. One thing it is clear, that is the responsibility of the rabbinate to teach and advise and encourage their congregations that abortion is not a simple thing. You see, the outside, I will say this because I'm not talking about public policy now. The outside world, abortion is a human right. I mean, think about it. Think about this one second. Yes, I think. But the way they portray it is that, you go in, you clean yourself out, and then, no, it never works that way. People that have gone through abortions have lingering effects, lingering psychological effects on them. Because ultimately, everybody knows, no one is going to argue that you're not expelling a bag of beans. You're not. If you look at video of fetuses, they're alive. My granddaughter, Mosia, was born 20 weeks, 21 weeks.
That's pretty.
No, 25 weeks.
26,
maybe 25. She weighed 1 pound 10 ounces.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 pound 10 ounces. That was she weighed. I forgot how many weeks she was. When I first saw her, she looked like an alien. Literally like an alien. Like you look like a straw. That was her thing. Her diaper was this big. They had her in a NIC unit, and bandages over her eyes, tubes coming out of her. She made it. So no one could have convinced me any time that just taking this out is now. I'm not going to tell everybody what to do, how to do, what to want. But I know that before you make this decision, this is not a cavalier decision. This is not a birth control decision. It's not something you go in there, we don't want it, whip it out. Get it out of me. This is a very serious decision. You got to think about the ramifications, think it through, talk it through. If at the end of the day, whatever you decide, this is a free country because the United States of America is the United States of America, whatever it is. But what Judaism is saying is it's not an easy decision to make. So it's a very complex, and of course, as you can see from Ramesha and from the Rambam and what it is, that it has the status of almost of a human being, except in extreme cases. God forbid we should never have to come to this to this position like in anything else in medical ethics. You just talk about it in theory, right? It should never have to come in practicality. But if, God forbid, there is an issue, find yourself a competent rabbi to discuss this with, go through it, think it through. But remember that Hashem's blessings, now I just wanted to say this because it's going to come up. People ask about, what about rape and incest? Okay, what about those things? So it would line up according to the same thing would happen. Number one is, we would say, just because rape and incest is not a carte blanche. I mean, it's bad, and no one wants, but you would have to line up with Rashi or the Rambam. According to Rashi, there would be circumstances that he would be more willing, to see an abortion. The Rambam would probably tell you, is your life in danger? No, and you have to see the baby through. You could give it away, whatever you want to do, give it away, whatever it is. Right, adoption, give it away. But Rashi would be a little bit more lenient in certain circumstances. But I'm just brought that up, not to cloud the issue, but just to tell you how it would look at it. You know what? It's a great blessing. Pregnancy in Judaism is an extremely great blessing. Not rape and incest, don't get me wrong, but it's a great, tremendously great blessing. This is the first mitzvah. This is something that everybody, parents wait for this. It's your life, it's a life-changing thing. And that's really the difference between a fetus and a child. The fetus is life-changing in potential, but when the baby is born, it's life-changing in reality. So we should look at this, and we should look at pregnancy in this country as the greatest gift that God is given to us. That said, then you go out there and do your thing. But certainly Judaism would look at that Hashem blessed you and he gives the fetus wherever it needs to succeed in life. You should be thrilled and happy about the pregnancy, and that should be our mindset. If God forbid something goes wrong, then we should start to debate and to worry about it. But initially, we should never look at pregnancy as a punishment. What did God do to me? What did God do to me? I was taking the pill and the bin and shmill and the drill, and then all of a sudden I get this. Look at this, he's ruining my life. We should never look at it that way. We should look as a blessing, because there's nothing like a baby. Nothing like a baby. Anyways, next week we're going the opposite end of the field. We're going back to geriatrics and further. We're going to find out next week. What are we finding out? This week was pregnancy issues, a body's dignity. That's also very important in today's day and age. More and more people are trending towards cremation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that next week. But until then, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you very much.
I want to give a big shout out to the people that are here with me in-house. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be as animated as I am. So thank you very much. Let me say goodbye to the Facebook world. I'll see you next week.